We are now recording on the computer with my all my friendly podiatrists here. So I'm going to do my normal intro for the podcast, and then we're just going to rip straight into this particular episode. And if anybody, Aadila's dropped out, and let's put her back in again. So anyone who's watching this video, this is the uncut version of the Podiatry Legends podcast. And Aadila jumped out to jump back in again just so she could mess up the order of my screen. Okay, so I'm going to do my intro and we'll go from there. Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. Today, I am joined by, and I'm going to read this off my list here. I have Chloe O'Donoghue from Stepping Out Podiatry on the Sunshine Coast. Chloe, we are from Woodvale Podiatrist in Perth. Aadila, Dadda, I think I got that right. Brisbane, Happy Feet, Queensland. Jasmine, Kouch, just like the thing you sit on, but don't sit on Jasmine. She doesn't like that. From Two Right Feet Podiatry in Kilsyth, Victoria. Trina, Goard from Armidale Podiatry in Armidale. Judi, France, Toowoomba Podiatry in Toowoomba, which sort of makes sense. And also Jonathan Small, Health First Foot and Gait Clinic in Southam, United Kingdom. So welcome everybody to this particular podcast. How are you all doing?
Good. Very well, thank you.
Well, that was really enthusiastic. Let's try that again. How is everybody doing this evening? Except for Jonathan, because he is in the UK. So, I think we need a few more drinks for this particular episode. So,
we need to pull out Carly's scotch.
He doesn't have scotch in this one.
I wasn't going to bring that into the end, but
it's sitting down on the floor. Okay, so let's get into this. So the reason I wanted to actually organize this particular episode was because all you guys have actually completed the 12-week podiatry business reboot. In fact, you were actually, majority of you were in the first group, except Jonathan, who was in the most recent group, in group number 3. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the 12-week podiatry business reboot. And instead of just me talking about it, because I'm extremely biased, and I'll just tell everyone how wonderful it is anyway, I thought it'd be good to get some other viewpoints on the particular program, what you thought about it. But before we get into that, and I actually do have questions written down. Now, I just want to point out to everybody who's listening to this, everybody that's on this podcast, I have not given the questions to. I only just told them beforehand that I do have some questions, but I want the answers just to come off the cuff. So we'll see what happens. This could be really, really interesting or an absolute train wreck. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so here's the first. I've got 2 questions I want to ask you before we actually get into the reboot program. And anyone who's listening to this at this point right now, if you're thinking, shit, I'm going to switch off, this is just going to be a sales podcast about the 12-week podiatry business reboot, there's going to be a lot more to it than that. I think when you hear what some of these people are going to say, or some of these podiatrists, what they're going to say, you will take away a lot of information regardless. So just hang in there, pull your head out of your bum and just and listen. So the first question I wanted to ask you before, here we go. What's the question? Here we go. I missed the question. Very professional, Tyson. Here we go. Question 1. And I'm going to go around with everybody here. Have you ever been in a coaching program before? And if you have, don't mention where you've been if you weren't happy with it. So Judi, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, I have been. I got the distinct impression it was being underwritten by another organisation, and yeah, I didn't find it that helpful or personable, to be quite honest.
Okay. So was it? No, like I said, I won't get in the detail. I don't specifically want to know who the companies were, but I just wanted to. Actually, I don't think it's a question I've ever asked anyone before if they had actually done any coaching programs before. So, Carly, what about you?
Yeah, I've done one before.
I remember you did actually tell me about yours.
Yeah, but
didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
Okay, Trina?
No, I'm a first timer.
Okay, that's cool. Chloe?
No, I haven't either. First time as well.
So no other coaching programs or anything?
Nope.
Okay, no problem. Jonathan, what about you? You actually run Work Smarter, Not Harder. So you actually run a coaching program, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I just run the courses, don't I? But as a program, as a sort of like 12-week, I haven't done a full 12-week. I've done some shorter term ones, just focusing on specific niches.
Okay. Jasmine?
I've looked into quite a few, but this is my first proper one that I've ever been into in the actual defined form.
Yeah. Well, even though you and I actually did do some stuff earlier on, but that's all right. And Aadila, what about you?
No, this was my first.
First one. And I must admit, prior to actually running this group coaching program, I had never actually been involved in a group coaching program myself. I hadn't run one, and I also had never been on one. I always thought they were like, why would you want to do that? So when COVID first started, there was this online course about group coaching. So I thought, I'm going to go and do this because I hate it so much. I'm going to prove why I hate it by joining this group. And I absolutely loved it. I had a ball. And then it made me realize, where if I enjoyed it so much, maybe other people will. So this is the second question. When you first heard about the 12-week podiatry business reboot, why did you decide to do it? And what was happening or not happening in your business? So there had to be a reason why you wanted to do it. So Judi, I'll go back to you again.
I thought nothing ventured, nothing gained. I was just getting a bit stale with the whole business side of podiatry and just wanted mentorship as far as how to do it better. If you can't measure, you can't improve, basically. So that was the main incentive for actually joining.
Cool. Okay, Carly?
There was a missing part of the puzzle for me. So I needed someone or a group of people that I could connect with on a business level, and I didn't have that. So the 12-week reboot program gave me an opportunity. That I had a failed coaching before, and this just happened to come along a month later. And I thought, well, why not give it a go? You've always got to keep learning in any area that you are in. So I dove in.
Okay, so it's like it was the perfect time when it came across your desk. Okay, Trina, what about you?
I'd been to one of your marketing workshops, so I already sort of knew what you were about. And I guess
and you still joined in. That's great.
I know, what the heck. But I guess I haven't been in business that long, so I just thought that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So if you've got all the pearls of wisdom, I guess I'd join up. But it was also a lot cheaper than one-on-one coaching, to be perfectly honest. Yeah,
but that is part of the advantage, I think, of group coaching. It is usually cheaper, but also it's the biggest part about it is who's actually in the group. And even when I was working out who was going to be in the group, one of the rules I have is not having two people in the same group from the same area. So therefore everyone openly shares stuff with each other. But also I don't want I just don't want anyone in the group. So there's been people who have wanted to join and I've gone, I don't think you're going to be a positive addition to the group. So Chloe, what about you?
Mine was probably more to get some structure and systems in place. I've worked for a couple of different big podiatry groups and I've had input. So I haven't done anything structured before, but with my own business, but working for other people, I'd seen what to do, what not to do, and I'd had some internal coaching, and so I had a lot of ideas, but I felt like I wasn't really putting them all together as well as I could do, and it was just to get some structure essentially on getting organized and trying to get time management and be held accountable.
Okay, that's fine. So Jonathan, I know you know me pretty well. So it was a given you were going to do it.
Yeah, I always find that I learn from you, Tyson. I mean, your success in the podiatry world is just incredible compared to a lot of podiatry practices, particularly compared to those in the UK. So anything that I can learn from you and integrate into my practice is going to be well worthwhile, and particularly this year with the pandemic, where customer behaviours are changing, their approaches to their health and their lifestyles have taken a transformation. Just to understand how we can pitch our business to move into 2021 with a successful mindset.
Yeah, you're making me blush. So Jasmine, what about you?
So I'm a relatively new practice myself as well. But I remember I started one-on-one coaching with you, Tyson, because I was lost and confused and just kind of winging it most of the time. And I just thought, you know what, I need someone that knows a little bit more structure and has been there before and done that. And even through our individual mentoring, I was telling you so many times, I was like, I'm so lonely.
Yeah, I do recall you saying that.
I was like, I just need some friends. So when you created the business group, I was like, oh, perfect. I can buy some friends. So this is great. But no, it's been fantastic because then at least I can bounce off other people and at least we all kind of can share each other's struggles together, and also kind of at least someone's already tried that or been there, and then we can bounce off one another as well. And I think that's been one of the most greatest things about this group mentoring.
Yeah, and that was the part that surprised me when I did the group coach. This other group that I was actually, one of the participants in it, was how much you actually connected with some of the other people in the group, and then you were talking outside of the group, and you were just. And it's not that you become super friendly with every single person in the group, but you do tend to bond with. There's always 2 or 3 that you bond with a lot more, and then I can see the interaction, and I can tell within the group when somebody comments on something, and then somebody else. We'll ask a question. And somebody else is already answering it. And that was by about week 3 or 4, I started realizing I don't have to do all the work, because somebody would ask a question and then everybody else was diving in answering it. I go, I could take a day off, which was good. So Aadila, what about you?
I think I did the marketing workshop with you on the Gold Coast, and that was where I met Jasmine. But I think with 2020 being a sole practitioner, when this whole COVID isolation thing hit, it was quite, it's quite hard to envision your business moving forward and how you would get to the figures that you want, or the market or the clientele that you want. And I think when you offered the business coaching, it just opened a whole new network of people, because not only is it our connection with you, Tyson, or what you offer, it's all these lovely other podiatrists that you get to meet and their experience and their wisdom. And I don't think I think there's most of us touch base often, and I get advice from everyone. And I think that's what I'm most appreciative of.
No, that's good. And like I said, I haven't given these questions to you beforehand. So this is the sort of feedback that I want is just what pops into your head and actually comes out. And I know that, like, once you listen to everybody else answer the question, you can sort of sit there and go, oh yeah, that sounds good. I'm gonna add to that. So now I'm gonna actually I want to discuss some of the topics that we covered in the 12-week reboot and just get your take on it. So when we did week 1, the first actual session was all based around developing a team culture, which was about aligning your team with your own beliefs and values. And this was, even if you were a solo practitioner, I was saying that you still actually have a team, whether it's your accountant, your lawyer, it could be your signwriter. They've still got to be on the same wavelength as you. So was this a useful topic? So Carly, I know you have a team. So did you find that particular topic useful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it really resonated with me, because if you want growth in the practice, if you don't look at your team and your culture, then it's not going to grow. So because you know the concepts, I think everyone knows the concepts of the business, but when you go through it in this reboot program, you allow us to, you tell us how to actually apply them and how to actually do them, and then measure those results. So I think the first week, getting that basis, it gets you to reflect on your business and get those solid foundations again, and see where you can tweak things. So that was good. That was really useful.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the other extreme of, say, Trina, for example, who was a solo practitioner. You don't have anyone employed with you, do you, Trina?
Well, since the 12-week reboot, I've hired a receptionist and a podiatrist. So I think having culture before I had anybody else, it completely changed how I interviewed people and the types of questions I'd ask. And it was really good to see from the other podiatrists that had a lot of staff what to ask and what not to ask from their experiences as well.
Okay. So Judi, I'm going to get you to answer this as well, because you've been around as long as what I have. So you're one of the veterans in the group here. How did you find that session about the leadership? Even though I know, because you work by yourself as well at the moment.
Yes, I do. I found it really, really useful because I've been in practice 37 years, and I wanted somewhere along the line work myself out of my business. So I need to develop a team to be able to do that. And if I do, I actually want to do it properly. And so I want to hire the right sort of people. People that align with our values, particularly.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. It's anyone can put on a podiatry hat and say, I'm a podiatrist, but not every podiatrist is made equal. And if you employ the wrong person in your business, geez, it can, and I've done it. I've employed people that I was so desperate, I just needed anybody to fill that spot. In hindsight, it would have been better to have not employed them, just done it myself. It would have worked out better in the end. So I'm going to go on to the next part, which was from week 2 to 5, we sort of covered systems, which was recalls, reactivation, looking at incomplete treatment. And there's a big difference in how each of these things are basically used and when they're used. So this is the question. Most podiatrists have systems, but did this program open your eyes to a few of the holes that may have existed with what you previously had set up? So Jonathan, I'll go to you because you're another veteran.
I very much think that putting some structure into your recalls reactivation rather than being, I was quite ad hoc. So to actually have a process in place to make sure that you're following up on patients after certain time periods. You explained it really well in quite a lot of detail about the different time scales. When you could really re-engage with patients and what methods you should use to re-engage with them according to how long it's been since they've been in your practice and what their needs are. So yeah, I found it really useful for that.
Cool. Chloe, what about you?
In terms of recalls, it was something I was doing already and I knew what I should be doing. I just wasn't necessarily doing it consistently enough. So it certainly helped to get me focused again on that. But the biggest thing out of it was probably the incomplete treatment journeys. I wasn't necessarily following those through or didn't have a system in place for it. So I think that really got me focused. And it also made me realize how much I was, I guess, missing out on to some extent. I was getting busy, so it's kind of the recalls slipped by because I didn't have the capacity to put people in. But that's not obviously to grow. That's not the best way to go. So yeah, it definitely got me focused again, and I found that once that made me then start to think, well, I need to start employing people and get more help with this. So whether it's, I've looked to take on my own admin staff rather than I share admin staff at the moment. So it certainly made me highlight some areas where I was dropping away and it was going to affect things long term.
Okay, cool. So Aadila, what about you?
I was much like Chloe. I was already doing recalls, but it just gave me a time frame and a proper structure rather than saying I'm quiet and I'll start going through my books and recording.
Yeah.
Or even what I enjoyed, I think, about weeks 2 to 5 was the diary setup, or how you basically advised on how to implement it. I think that was what was important is.
Structuring the diary. So, because it's fine to do recalls, but if you haven't structured your diary to get these patients in, they're ringing up and then they may go somewhere else.
Exactly. So it was that whole, how do you do it? How do you go about it? And according to your experience, the best methods of doing it. I think that was helpful.
Oh, that's good. Okay, Jasmine, what do you think?
So I had heard of most of these things, but being new and stuff, I think it was one of those things that I knew that I had to start implementing and start creating all of those systems for. And that was one of the biggest eye openers as well, was because I was just sort of on the fly trying to do things, and I had people, but I would have people slip through the cracks and I didn't know how to kind of pull them back in.
Yeah.
And this was great for being able to create a systemized way of, and a structured approach really, to being able to not feel salesy at the same time, because I had always,
yeah, that's the big thing.
Connected, being like doing recalls, for example, as with the sales approach, like, oh, you know, I'm losing money, so I need you back here, sort of thing. But it is at the end of the day a way of trying to say, look, I care for you and I want to bring you back so I can complete that treatment, rather than making them feel like disorientated and that we don't care. And I think that was the biggest mind shift that I needed to have as well, that I really appreciated about that time in the Reboot system.
Yeah, and that was in the most recent group that Jonathan was in. We actually had a conversation one night around that, where some people were like, oh, but I don't normally recall people because I just do the work and go, if you need to come back, you just come back when you need to come back. And we had a really long discussion about it and said, yeah, but what if they've got a problem? Yeah, if they've got a problem, should you be trying to get them back to identify if there is a problem, if everything's okay? So these people may actually have a problem and you're just waiting for them to get back in touch with you. And instead they're going to the person down the road, to their GP, to their solicitor. That was, and when we had that conversation that night, I think Jonathan and one of the other guys went, yes, that actually makes a lot more sense now on the importance of doing the recalls. It's not just about making more money. It's really about following up on your treatment. So anyway, I'm going to move on the next thing. We also, during that period, covered patient journeys and treatment journeys. So it was like how a patient flows through your business and the potential services that you may actually offer. So did this change the way you approach your patients now? So I'll start with Carly again. I'll go back up the top.
Well, it's interesting because I only treat half a day a week. So when we're talking about the patient treatments, it's how I talk to the staff members about that.
Yeah.
And so where this program is really successful is it doesn't matter where you are in business. You could be, just starting out, or you could be 18 years in business like I am. There is something that you learn every time you talk to the group, and it's a real good mental shift around like how you're actually doing business. And so oh God, Tyson, what was the question? I'm just talking away. Blah blah blah.
But this is why
patient treatment, wasn't it?
This is why we love having you in the group.
How do we structure patient treatment?
Oh no, it was more about we spoke about how there's a treatment journey when a patient comes into your business and they actually flow through your business or the type of treatment that you're offering them. There's actually a journey that they go through, and if you map it all out, you can actually may see flaws and holes in the way that you're actually delivering the treatment.
Oh, absolutely. It gave me a different way of actually looking at the patient treatments, of how we do it and how many patients we were losing, how many new patients we were getting in, and then they were just disappearing out the back door. So all the effort that you put into getting patients in, and you think you're doing a really good job, but then they don't come back. And so it's about, well, what can we do to change this? And it's not as though you're giving bad treatment, you're giving really good treatment, but it's about how do we actually hold on to those patients and take them through that journey and let them get an insight into how we can help them better. So it's about really servicing your patients better.
Yeah, and I like what you said too about, when you just mentioned, it doesn't matter whether you've been in business for 1 year or you've been in business for 15 years. Judi was in group 2. And in group 2, like Judi just said, that she's been practicing for 37 years. And there was another person that was in the group who'd been practicing for 1 year. So, and everybody still contributed in the group and commented on certain things. So Judi, what's your take on the treatment journey? Did it make you look at how you treated your patients and look for holes and maybe think you were missing?
Yeah, definitely. Even though I'm a solo practitioner at the moment, I actually began developing a system so we could actually trace a patient journey as such, rather than being a little bit lazy and saying, oh, well, when it's giving you trouble again, please come back. We'll be here to help you. And often I think that the perception of the general public has changed too, unless they're reminded that you're there, every so often, that they'll forget who you are and just go down the road. So actually having a patient journey in place in which you can get the receptionist to ring up and see how they're going and, perhaps suggest a review has definitely helped.
Okay, that's great. So Trina, what about you?
I think as a solo practitioner, I was a bit rogue in how I was treating. And so it's really nice to, be progressing your business and buying a shockwave machine, but I wasn't using it systematically for plantar fasciitis. So I think being able to fine tune things to get better outcomes. But now with a new podiatrist starting, the patients are going to get the same level of treatment no matter who they see.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be quite good as well.
Yeah. And that's the importance of mapping it out, is so everybody is on the same page. So if they see you one day, they see the other person in 3 days' time for the next treatment, everyone knows what's actually coming up next. So Chloe, what about you on this particular question?
I think it gave me the push I needed to sort of restructure how I was doing things. I think I mentioned recently that I changed to a bit like how Carly does. I have different length times for my initial consultations for biomechanical patients and then generals, and it made me get more organized. And I think I'd steered away from that initially because it wasn't my own admin team, and I figured it would be a bit too complex for them to understand. But then it was holding me back, and I felt the patients weren't getting the right start to their treatment journey. So I allowed more time, and I've then got the time to put into the patients to give them an idea of where we're going to go, rather than just each time they turn up and it wasn't properly followed through. And I think when you're on your own, you can get away with that. But like Trina just said, when you take on new staff, you want it to be consistent. So it certainly helped me get my head in the right space. And I've worked in teams a lot before, and I don't think any of them have ever had anything systemized, and it's always been a downfall to them. I don't want to end up like that. So yeah, it was really helpful for me.
Yeah, and that's the part that's funny when I've seen people that say been in business for 20 years, every time somebody leaves and somebody new starts, it's like this massive headache for them, because they're the only one that knows how to train them, because they've never written anything down. They might have other podiatrists working there, but nobody really does it the same treatment anyway. Everyone's they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And then a new person starts and they're like, well, whose advice do I actually follow? So that's important to sort of mapping it out. So in week 6, we dug deep into finding your ideal patient, and we talked about niching and that a little bit as well. So this question, I'm going to start with you, Jonathan, is did you get more clarity on who your ideal patient was and the type of podiatry work that you should be targeting?
So I've always struggled with the ideal patient. I understand the concept of it, but as somebody who likes new challenges, new experiences in life, focusing on an ideal patient, I've struggled to define that. But through the work with you, I actually managed to really start to get a real grip of what I was after as my ideal client, and sort of the treatments that I wanted to deliver to them. It provided great clarity for me. Yeah. Cool.
So, Jasmine?
I think it was really funny because when I first started, I was sort of like, oh, I'll take in everyone. So my ideal patient was literally everyone that had feet. So it was great. But now it's like, I know that I can focus it a lot more. And then once I had focused it, I started to notice obviously more of my ideal patient coming in. But then those ideal patients would come in and then bring in all of these other wonderful people that are quite similar in terms of their values, and that I could interact with really well, and that they will comply to treatment and so on and so forth. And so it all rolls on really well in regards to that. And niching just helped me find not just the ideal type of patient that I wanted to treat, but also like in terms of the actual condition that they came in with, but also the type of person that they were and the background that they had and so on and so forth as well, because then I knew I could get along with them. Then therefore I knew that, their treatment would be good.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast this afternoon, and it was a guy who used to work at Disney for 30 years. And the person at the end of the podcast asked him the question, what's your final tip to anybody that's listening to this? And it was a business podcast. And the guy from Disney just said, just do what you love doing. And didn't say, do what you love doing and you'll never work a day in your life. He said, just do what you love doing. And he said, and that's it. He said, just focus on doing more of what you love doing. And yeah, you're still going to have good days and bad days. So Aadila, what about you with the ideal patient? See the look on your face. You're like, bloody hell, the ideal patient.
Okay. This is a long one because I struggled. Initially, I struggled because with studying diabetes education and the weight management and working out of GP clinics, I struggled. So I think I sent out a help message the first week saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. But you know, the funny thing is after completing the 12-week reboot, right? And now going back and listening in on a lot of the hours spent talking to you guys, I've basically realized that it's thinking about things like this has given me the confidence to treat or be a better clinician, because you really basically know your self-worth and your skill set, and are able to approach your referrers and ask for that particular type of patient, which is amazing. Because if you asked me to do that prior to meeting all of you, or prior to even doing the 12-week reboot with you, Tyson, I would have thought, hell no.
It's true though. I think when you know who your ideal patient is, and the funny part is everyone thinks, oh, when you know who your ideal patient is, therefore you don't treat anybody else. No, you still treat other people, but your focus is on who you want to treat. More like the Disney guy said, do more of what you just love doing. And I think when you do that, and when you know what you like, when you're talking to a physio or a chiropractor or a GP, it comes out of you really naturally. Oh, this is the type of podiatry work I want to do. Not just, oh, I'm a podiatrist. And like Jasmine said, just send me anyone with a heartbeat and at least 1 foot. Especially if you're seeing a lot of diabetics, you get the occasional just 1 foot. Okay, week 7. This was actually a really interesting week. We got into pre-framing conversations and directing the conversation, and it was sort of talking about you're selling without selling. I'm not a fan of the word sales. When I hear someone say, oh, they are such a good salesman, they could sell ice to Eskimos, I'm going, I already don't like you, because I always feel it's not about selling something to somebody. It's professionally helping them buy. And it's got to be something that is going to be worthwhile and beneficial to them. It's not, you can't just give someone a pair of legs just because you can. There's got to be a clinical reason for it. There's got to be a benefit to them. And so that's just my opinion. So the question is, did this help with your communication skills with your patients? So Carly, back up to you at the top.
Oh, you keep asking me about patient questions.
Okay, let's get off of Carly. Let's leave Carly alone and let's go to someone who likes their patients more. Let's go to Trina.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. No, I do love my patients. I think for me, the hardest thing, like just from even graduating all the way until now, is when people come in with chronic pain, you need to be the one that motivates them, and whatever device or whatever treatment modality you're using, it's not going to have the same effect if you don't have the right communication skills about how it's going to work. And I guess having a bit of positivity about things, rather than just saying like, here's an orthotic, your foot might get better in 3 weeks. Like that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
So I thought just having those pre-framed conversations was really effective, and it's really helped, like in my practice anyway.
No, that's good. So Chloe, what about you? We're skipping Carly altogether on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm seeing a lot of patients at the moment, but I'm a bit like Carly, that my plan is to move away from patients to some extent. But I know that what it probably taught me is the importance of training my staff to then have good communication skills, because I think a lot of mine has come with experience, and it's still not perfect, depending upon the day and the patient, etc. And it really, we see such a variety of different people, and you've really got to be specific with your advice depending upon the patient that comes in, and just being able to read them is a big thing. So I think it's probably made me realize I need to train my staff in that.
No, that's okay. So Judi, what about you?
Definitely an area I need to work on. I'm very good at reading people, but I'm not very good at selling things as such. And so I probably need to do a bit more of a review of it. But when I've applied the principles, it's actually done very well. I just need to practice more, I think.
Because the whole idea about the pre-framing was really, it's talking about the elephant in the room. Is talking about, you're seeing the patient and they're telling, well, when we get through all this, and you're talking about something that they're probably thinking about, and you bring it up early. So when you do talk about it later, they're not sort of like, oh, here we go. Now they're going to try and con me into something. And that's the last thing you ever want a patient thinking, is that you're trying to talk them into something they don't need. And that's when you feel like you need to have a shower afterwards. If you've ever done that, you will not feel good about it. And I know some podiatrists that, it may not bother them to work that way, it's just about making the money. And I think there's nothing wrong with making money. I enjoyed it, but I think at the same time, you got to finish each day thinking, I just did an awesome job and I got paid well for doing it. So then weeks 8 to 9, we spoke about developing your marketing strategy, creating a yearly marketing plan, which was more like a roadmap over like a 12-month period, and then developing daily, weekly and monthly marketing plans, which is more like a GPS, sort of taking from one point to the next. So the question is, and Carl, you're going to start with this one, so get prepared for it.
Yeah,
it's not a patient question. It's prior to doing the 12-week reboot, did you have a 12-month roadmap for your marketing, or did you just play it by ear?
Oh, look, I'm a bit random. So that would be a no. I didn't have a yearly roadmap. Not one. Probably in my head, I think a lot of people go, oh, well, this is how this year will pan out. But actually sitting down, writing down, what am I going to do January, February, March, April? What do I want to achieve, and the goals that I want to achieve, like by the end of first quarter, second quarter? Those are the things that I hadn't actually written down.
Yeah.
Because I had no one to be accountable for. So the business just kept plodding along. We got new patients, we earned money. There was, everyone was happy. That's good, but there was no growth and consistent management in that. And so that week was really, really important for me, I think, to realize how bad I was at that.
Well, we used to do the same thing. It'd get to July and we go, oh, and it'd be like the 3rd of July, and you go, oh, we're in the month of July. What did we do last July?
Mm.
And everyone would be sitting there scratching their head. And when I used to run my fingers through my hair, and we'd be thinking about, what did we do last July? And we'd be trying to think what we actually did. And then once we started planning things out by looking at everything we'd done in the past and then really mapping out what we were going to do in the future, we knew what we were doing in July. It doesn't mean we had to do it. And that's why I made that joke about it's only set in sand. The only thing set in concrete is Jimmy Hoffa. Somebody listening to this will get that joke. If not, send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com, and I'll tell you what it's all about. Jonathan, what about you with the whole marketing strategy?
Yeah, so I was very similar, sort of ad hoc. If you went quiet, then you put more effort into your marketing. If you were busy, then you didn't, sort of thing. And it didn't really have a structure to it. It worked for me, but it didn't have a structure. And particularly, like you just said, about having to always be creative because you can't remember what you did previously or last year with it. Whereas actually, when you start to map it out, then you get that system to it, and it just becomes a lot easier flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I remember one particular month at work, just prior to selling it, we had one of the busiest months we ever had. It was so busy. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm starting to implement things for the following month. And some of the podiatrists came up to me and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just organizing the marketing for next month. They went, we are that busy at the moment and you're coming up with these new ideas on actually bringing in more patients. And I went, yeah. I said, because that's what we do. I said, the way you keep it busy is not waiting until it gets quiet to do your marketing. It's you're busy and then just keep doing. And they always say, how busy you are this month is usually a reflection on what you did the 2 months before. So if you sat on your hands and not done too much leading into December, you probably had a quiet December. If you did nothing in December, your January is not going to be very good. So it's about putting work in all the time. So Aadila, what about you? How did you find the marketing plan strategy?
I think I learned about the importance of consistency.
Yes.
In the effort that you put in is what you reap at the end, and that it has to be measurable. Otherwise, you just don't know. You're basically going off nothing, aren't you?
Yeah. So you're saying you're doing your marketing, but then also testing it and measuring the results you're getting from it, not just hoping it worked.
Yes, because I was from the old school letterbox drop-offs, right? That's how ancient my marketing was before this.
Do people serve
So-
letterboxes? No, I'm only
Yes,
joking. I know
people serve
that.
letterboxes.
Yes, I know. I'm only joking.
No, but it's more about being consistent. Is exactly what you said. When you're busy, it's still being at it and finding that time to put towards the growth of your business that makes it count or makes the figures amount what you want at the end.
Yeah. I know, and I do apologize about that letterbox joke because
Ah.
I'm a big fan of old school marketing, not so much the letterbox shops, but just sending letters and handwritten cards and things to patients. Some of it ends up in their letterbox, and when patients get it, they go, "Holy crap! I haven't got." The only thing that normally turns up a letterbox is a bill. So when they actually get something that's a little bit more personalized, it's actually noticed. So Jasmine, what about you with the whole marketing plans and strategies?
Yeah, I was very ad hoc as well in terms of my marketing. This really helps me because it gave me structure, but also gave me a bit more idea in terms of the diversification of types of marketing to actually look through. And I think that's when we were talking about the pillars.
Yeah.
And yeah, that because I would mostly be focusing on something 1 month and just forget about it for months and months and months before I kind of cycle back and go, oh crap, I haven't booked in a doctor's meeting in forever or something along those lines. And it really helped in order to kind of give me that, like Aadila said, the consistency to be able to know that things keep rolling, be able to keep touching base with every single part of those pillars, and be able to reap all of them coming in from all different avenues as well, and be able to get really all-rounded sort of marketing to bring
that's
people
cool.
in. Yeah.
So
We all did
weeks
that for each other,
9.
didn't
Oh, what are you saying, Carly?
we all did that for each other, like those pillars. We all got together.
They
in
were
the-
great.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we got everyone's idea on every pillar of marketing, and they were really, like, some of them were really different. So that was really good to bounce those off ideas through the group, because you might be doing one thing one way, and as Aadila was saying, like, you need to test and measure everything that you're doing. But people had really good ideas. Thanks for that, guys. That was great.
Yeah, and that was a good part of the group. And this is part of the dynamics of the group coaching was the more, because I said when we were doing the 6 pillars of marketing, I said everyone just randomly pick a pillar and then just start posting something into the group. And it was good that everybody had picked a different pillar. So where Carly, you may have picked, say, external marketing, and Jasmine may have picked internal marketing. All of a sudden you were sharing ideas with each other. And that was probably because group 1 was a fairly large group. Group 3 was a large group. Group 2 was a smaller group. So that was probably the disadvantage for Judi at the time. It was a slightly smaller group. So, but they still shared the ideas, which was part of the whole group coaching. So weeks 9 to 12, we spoke about protecting and developing your brand and improving your web presence. And we spoke about websites. Got Nikki Jerd to come in and run a session. In group 3, Nikki came in on one of our Q&A breakfast morning sessions, night session for the guys in the UK, and did the same thing, did a bit of review on everyone's websites, which was really cool. We also discussed the importance of understanding the numbers of your business, which Aadila touched on, not just with the marketing, but also just other areas. What numbers in your business really matter? That was the important part, which led on to the concept right at the end. In the last session, we did that thing about punctuated equilibrium. Does everyone remember what that was? Oh, no. So you all need to go back and watch the last thing about punctuated equilibrium. And that was where, once you know your numbers, and when you know how your business is running, the punctuated equilibrium is when you'll have this massive growth and all of a sudden it'll start to plateau. And as it plateaus from one point to the next point before it jumps up again, that period is the punctuated equilibrium. That's where nothing has really happened. But once you understand your numbers, you can look at your numbers and go, wow, we're not where we should be. Why aren't we where we should be? And once you notice that, you can therefore make some changes and jump back up again. So that was a good reminder. I'm glad we brought that up. I won't get anyone else to comment on it. But this is the advantage of the group too, was everything we recorded is on Facebook. We put it in that group there, and those videos are always there. So you can always go back and watch them. We also talked about the Ooda Loop. I don't know if anyone remembers the Ooda Loop, which was interesting. The Red Queen hypothesis. Yeah, if you're standing still, you're actually falling behind. And also you can have an abundance of ideas. And the idea is to apply them, kill them off, and find out what ideas are working well. And then we talked about the whole 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. So we covered a lot. And that was one of the questions I asked everybody at the end was, did you feel you got value for money when you actually did the reboot? Anyone want to comment on that?
I think that it's I would don't put your prices up, but I would pay twice for what we actually do. Maybe that's just me. No,
no, yeah, you're right. I should then, because that's the feedback I've had from a few people. They said, well, what we get out of it and what we're paying at the moment is such good value. So yeah, 2021, I may have to do that. You're off, are you, Aadila?
No, I was going to say, no.
That was the hand signal for buy.
I was going to say the 18 prices stay the same. Thank you.
Absolutely. Better than any, I think there's the value in the money. It's better than any conference that you will go to. The applications of the knowledge that you gain is beyond anything that I have been to. So I think in that aspect, the value for money is absolutely worth it.
Yeah, and the other thing I'll point out to anyone who's still listening to this at the moment, if someone's driving in their car, what I want to do is just explain when we do the 12-week reboot, what's involved so we get together every week. I say it's for an hour, but allow an hour, but I would normally allow at least an hour and 15 minutes. And it just depends on how much the group talks. Group 1 spoke a lot. So they went on just a little bit longer sometimes. All the meetings are recorded and they're uploaded to a Facebook group. So if for some reason you can't make one of the meetings, it's recorded. You can go back there and you can watch it anytime. And you can watch it later on. So anyone here actually miss a meeting? I can't remember who missed meetings and who didn't. Put your hand up if you actually missed a meeting. So nearly everybody here missed something. Jasmine's going, no, I didn't.
I was a star student.
I am a team
Well
player.
done.
So that's what I mean. In most of the groups, rarely was everybody there all at the same time. I think there may be one or two where everybody was always there, but everyone was able to go back, watch the recording, and they could catch up very quickly for the following week. Then we do the weekly Q&A sessions, which sometimes it was just Jasmine and I talking. But then we'd have 2 or 3 people on there. But as it went on, more and more people started joining, which was great. Then also with the reboot, there's templates and frameworks. So as we're going through the different sessions, I'll give you examples of everything. Did everyone find them useful, or at least modify them slightly to suit yourself? Yeah,
absolutely. You weren't starting from basis. So you were very generous of giving everything that you had, and we just adapted it to our clinic. So that was awesome.
Yeah, which is why you're saying I should put the price up.
Sure. You could cut that bit out. Yeah.
And then there's also, like, throughout the program, it's unlimited emails. So if you had any questions, just email me. Aadila, who's not on here, she's dropped out again. She emailed me a few times. I think Jasmine emailed me a couple of times. Trina emailed me a couple of times. Chloe did. Jonathan and I, we talk all the time anyway. So and the idea of having it there, it's not an inconvenience to reply to an email. Whereas I know some of the big coaching organizations, you can send them an email, just make sure you only send one or 2 a month, and it's on specific days, and they'll get back to you eventually. So, and then I think the last part, I think I also recorded a couple of tutorials that if a question came up in the Q&A session, I thought, I can answer that later. I'd shoot a little video and just sort of put it into the group. So I'm not sure where Aadila disappeared to. She always has dodgy internet. So, but she'll probably turn up before we finish. So to wrap up, if someone has listened to this and they're sitting on the fence, say they're thinking, I don't know whether I should do this or not, because I did have one person actually contact me and say, I'm not sure if I should do it now or I should wait a year when I've got more money. And I went, if you do it now, you won't have to wait a year to have more money. You'll just have more money. What advice would you give them? So I'm going to go around just as your final advice if somebody is sitting on the fence. So Judi, what do you think?
Oh, just do it. It's fantastic value for money, and you can't really go wrong with the information that you're getting. Plus, plus being involved with a group of like-minded professional podiatrists, because I think professional isolation is a huge problem with our sort of profession, particularly when you're in private practice. I mean, you might have a lot of private practices around you, but you still experience professional isolation. So it's money well spent.
Okay, that's great. So I will go to Carly and I'll tell Aadila the final question once she gets logged back on. So Carly, what do you reckon?
Oh, look, I think that if you're sitting on the fence, you really need to ask yourself why you're sitting on the fence and get to that answer. If you do this and you don't earn more money and have more structure and have more clarity in your life, then you're not listening. Like this is it makes you do things that you're putting off, and you get to be with the group of people, like Judi said, like-minded people. So it's very different than anything else out there.
Okay, cool. And it is, the funny part is I guarantee the program. So if people do it and they don't like it, I actually guarantee I'll give them 3 times their money back.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Jasmine, don't put your hand and go, yeah, no, I've just decided I didn't like it giving back.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a surefire way for me to earn my money back now.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, what would be your final tip for anyone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest block to our success in business is ourselves. And when you only got yourself for company during that process of trying to build your business and take it direction you want it to go, you're going to just keep putting blocks in place. You need to have your hand held with it, have support from other people who have been there, who've done it. And that can be in any aspect, and particularly from you, Tyson. You're an absolute marketing guru, and if you can make sure you're getting a good steady stream of new patients, then your business is secure, and your hints and tips in marketing make it so worthwhile doing, and it'll so easily pay for itself by taking part in the program.
You're making me blush again. So, Chloe.
I think for me, I'd looked at other programs prior to yours, and the thing that sold it for me, because I had a lot of ideas. I thought I knew a lot of stuff, but I kept hearing you should have a business coach, and I was like, right, let's start with something. And it's just how specific it is for podiatry. I'd looked at others that weren't. They were business coaching, they might be healthcare coaching, but it wasn't podiatry specific. And that I think has been a huge advantage. But not only, like, you were very generous with the information you gave, but it's also the network that we've now got from it as well. So even though it was a 12-week program, we've all got the contacts and we could keep sharing knowledge between us ongoing, which, however many people are in the group, I didn't know anybody prior to that, and now I've got all those contacts and everybody's willing to share information and prolong that journey.
Well, the good part is too, we've all stayed in touch because I've still got the shirt on at the moment, my Podiatry Business Spartans shirt, which will all be coming your way soon. I'll post them off tomorrow. So Trina, what about you?
I think there's something that I didn't think of in the beginning is the group aspect, and no question is out of bounds or no question is silly. So just being able to ask, 10 to 15 other people in the same position, but at different stages of their journey, that's just a wealth of information. And I think the biggest thing is if you're sitting on the fence, just being able to lock your clinic door at the end of the day and just like breathe a sigh of relief and be happy about where you are, that's just such a nice feeling. And I think that's what the 12-week reboot gives you.
Yeah, and that was, I like what you said then too about feeling comfortable asking the group a question. Because I know when I was out for a couple of years and you go to a conference and you'd be with a group of podiatrists around the table, and I felt embarrassed to ask a question that I felt I probably should have known. But then I'm like, well, why should I just know something? And you would ask it, and all of a sudden, just one person would shoot you down. You go, I feel like a complete dickhead now. So I'm not going to ask any more questions. So you go into your shell and you just don't ask any more questions. Whereas what I like with this group, I think one week, one of you actually asked a clinical question and I actually dove in and answered it. And I said, I don't normally answer clinical questions. But I thought it was great that every week someone would ask something and everyone would just, there was no, oh, well, that's a silly question. It felt like a really, really safe environment for everybody, which was great. So Jasmine, what about you?
I feel like the best thing about having the group mentoring is the network. It's exactly what you've said. It's the connections. It's the fact that everybody's at different stages of their business. So if you're like me, who is starting out, it's awesome to be able to see someone who has been in business for at this, levels or years above me. And I think one thing that people don't realize as well is having your own business is not just a change in like your life in career wise, but it's a whole change in your life, even personally. Like, how does it affect the rest of your life as well? And I think that's one of the best things is being able to be part of this group, is being able to speak to other people and go, how did you juggle having a business and being able to make it work for you in the way that you want it to also then fit in the lifestyle that you want. And I think this 12-week reboot has given me the clarity to be able to set myself up to be able to have the life that I want personally outside of work as well. Because as much as I love working, there are obviously other factors to life aside from working as well.
Oh,
so
definitely.
I think that is the best thing that it's given me, is the structure and the know-how to be able to go, oh, this is where I'm going to be in a couple of years. And I know that it's very reassuring for me as well.
Yeah, and you got the support of this group.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a question, you just ask. So, Aadila, what about you?
When I first joined the group, I was very apprehensive, right? I'll be honest. We spoke about it and you told me the price. I went away, I thought about it, and I think I was the last person to be accepted into the reboot, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure. I would actually have it written down because I put everyone on this book in order that they actually joined in.
And I remember thinking, geez, I hope this works out, because I was burnt out, I was tired, I was lonely, and I think I lacked passion in my practice. And honestly, I did the whole reboot. I did the homework that was asked for the most part of it.
Yeah.
And then when we finished the 12-week boot, I thought, oh my God, it finally just clicked. And I think I had a meltdown session.
You did. You emailed me and we spoke on the phone.
I had a meltdown. And I think it was just then, after the 12 weeks, that everything just clicked. Everything that I finally wanted, or that I needed, or I needed to reinvent or find my passion into podiatry again, it just came. So I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to the group and to you.
Okay. Can I let you in on something? You were not the last person in the group.
Oh, there we go.
No,
I think it was me.
Chloe.
I think. Yeah, I thought I'd had it sat open. So this is typical of me. I think about it, I look into it, and then I leave a tab open on my desktop. And then I think it was literally, I don't know if you posted that the group was almost full, and I was like, right, I should just do it. I think one of the biggest things was the timing didn't work for me, and I was like, oh, should I do it? How am I going to make it work? And then I just needed that push of, this is your last chance, and I did it, and yeah, no regrets at all. And I think that's a big lesson for people as well, is sometimes it might not be perfect timing, but just jump in and do it anyway, because like you say, everything's recorded, so you've got all the resources there regardless of if you're not there every week.
Yeah, well, you were in Perth, so when we did the Q&A sessions in the morning, it was like 4:30 in the morning your time. So yeah, it was unlikely you were going to be there, but it's like the lady that was in Pennsylvania who joined in. She was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to do each session in group 2. So, and just to let you know who the first person was in the podiatry business reboot.
Jasmine.
Oh, you're guessing, are you? It was Trina. Yeah, Trina was the first person that, because I remember the first time I mentioned the reboot was I did a webinar, and it was how to reboot your podiatry business after COVID-19, which I might do again in the new year. And because it was a fun webinar to do. And Trina, I think, joined that night. Was that night or the next
On
day?
the link while you were still talking.
Yeah. I think before I even got off, before I finished the webinar, she'd already joined up, and I just went.
Too much money.
So yeah, Carly was down the list a little, but that's all right. But when we started the Spartans group, like afterwards, Carly was the first one to go. Yeah, I mean, I think you were saying that before I'd even set it up.
Yeah. How can we keep this going? Because it just gives you a motivation. Like the main thing for me is my motivation for work and loving what I do has just excelled out of this.
Yeah, and it's hard trying to find groups where you feel you fit. Like Jonathan has got a really good group over there in the UK that he hangs with, like the work smarter, not harder guys. And when I was over in Liverpool last year, which seems like a lifetime ago now, and I think it was the night before the Osgo conference, you all met up for dinner. And I'm just sitting there watching this group and I'm going, these guys are bloody fun. And I think it's hard sometimes just to find a group of people, different ages, gender, different religious backgrounds, but you can just come together with something in common, and it just works. And Carly and I got some really cool salt and pepper shakers from Aadila when we met down in Brisbane, which was cool. I showed my wife; she thought they were awesome.
They are awesome.
They are awesome, aren't they? I should have brought them in here to show everybody. But so I want to thank you all for coming on the podcast. I want to thank everyone if you've listened all the way through this, I hope you learned something from everybody here. And I will put everybody's contact details in the show notes if you don't mind, unless you go, no, please don't. Or at least just your email. If anybody wants to reach out to you and ask you any questions, whether it's about this or something else, or they might, if you're ever posting a job, if you're looking for a podiatrist, they hear you on here, gives you what's the social proof that you're a nice person.
Send them for Reboot.
What was that?
Send the new grad for Reboot, or send the new employees for the Reboot.
So everyone, I just want to thank you for joining me, giving up your time, sharing your knowledge, and sharing your feedback on what you thought of the program. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tyson.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Tyson.
Thanks, Tyson.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.